My name's Joey Llewellyn. I'm a product manager here at Bentley. My focus is on Bentley Infrastructure Cloud and implementing functionality that makes what we dream of as digital project delivery a reality. So we're going to take a look at some of those things today. But one of the points I wanted to make here is, as we look at digital project delivery and the potential that it has, and I'm talking about potential to transform our industry, not incremental advancements, not tiny steps forward. I'm talking about radically improving the way we deliver projects. When we think about digital project delivery that way, there's some things that we need to understand. One of those principles and one of those guiding lights for us here is that we have to work together. If we're going to recreate or reimagine how we deliver projects, it takes all of us working together to dream that dream and then build it, the processes and the technology that make it better for all of us, okay? So that's point number one. But with that being said, understand that as a product manager, and as we dream about the potential for digital project delivery, we are actively working with the industry in the form of DOTs. One of those ways is the Innovation Council, which we host on a regular basis. It's comprised of the agencies you see on the screen. We engage with regularly. We share work that we are developing, solicit feedback. We talk about possibilities. We talk about real-world needs. And not only are we working with DOTs actively, we're working with consultants to share those same innovations and opportunities, again, as we work together to understand the people, the processes, so that we can develop the technology that elevates our entire industry, okay? So the Innovation Council is one piece of that puzzle. As I said, if you want to be involved, just as was hinted at earlier, as we think about the future, this is our opportunity to transform it for the better. And so it takes all of our voices, all of your voices, helping us develop functionality that builds that future that we aspire to. And so we're actively doing that. And again, this is an open door to interact with me or Ian as part of the Innovation Council, as a consultant, or as a contractor. So again, we are actively carrying that conversation forward. Now with that, we're going to turn things over to Scott, who PennDOT is a member of the Innovation Council. But we're going to see real-world application of the dreams, the aspirations, and the technology that's being developed actively and how it's being used in the real world on real projects. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Scott.
All right, thank you, Joe. And he might regret asking for more feedback because I know he talks to me way too much. So I'm going to talk about where we are at. So how did we get to kind of leading some of this stuff and pushing that envelope? So back in 2020, we set out the goal, and that was to this year be able to have the ability to basically bid things using 3D technology. We actually met that last fall. So we actually have a models of legal deliverable in construction today. It's a 3-year project. In that project, utilities, drainage, widening, that is all modeled. That is how it was delivered to the contractor. Initially, no cross sections even. So the contractor had no cross sections. I'll talk about some of the hiccups with that. But part of the hiccup is the technology. Having things as easy as flipping a page is what I've heard from the contractor. I can flip the page to get to that. How do I go over that? So we set that goal, like I said. We met that. And part of the last conversation was, what is digital delivery? Well, really, we're trying to modernize how we deliver projects today, that process. And how do we do that? It's digital workflows. It's digital delivery. What are we delivering? How are we connecting? How are we exchanging the data? And can we repeat that workflow? If I can't repeat it, most of you are not going to adopt it. Most of you are not going to move along if it's something you have to relearn over and over again. So as part of modernizing this, we have to approach not only the technology, but the workflow. How do I reproduce this? How do I move it forward? The other thing is, I talked about life cycle. To us, it's the life cycle. You know, that traditional one, you spend a lot of time working on CAD files that somebody made a copy to work on something else in it. There was duplications. There was that disconnect for review because you gave them a PDF that was sent out 10 times in an email and somebody had to bring all those comments back together. We want to eliminate some of that because there's redundancies, there's problems, there's things that get missed when that connection's not there between the reviewers, the designers, even construction. So a lot of times we duplicate things because we weren't communicating. We had that disconnection. So you were silent. You know, maybe roadway was working on something and bridge was separately working on it. They made a change, somebody over in roadway didn't get told to change. So you got to think about talking, and that doesn't just mean within the design units, that means construction, that means asset management, that means everything. But as we move towards that model-based, that digital delivery, we want that single source of truth. I don't want columns. We want that connected environment. We want things that, hey, he updated here, my model updates over here. It's connected. There's that transparency. We're seeing that as it moves forward. Continual communication. If something changes, we're seeing it. We're seeing issues. We're seeing communication that, hey, I updated this today with the issues and things like that. I can do that. So it's really having the data, having the ability to communicate the data, any point along the project. When I say any point, a lot of people think, hey, we're just going to use this for a review for a milestone. That's not the case. A lot of the consultants or the designers that have done our pilot projects today, they use it in between. They are finding things with the technology through Infrastructure Cloud Synchro that they did not see in ORD as quickly. It's a different way of looking at the data. So any time throughout. The other thing is ownership. It isn't the old days of, okay, I've designed it, forgot about it because it went to construction. For us, the designers stay on. They go through with the process to construction. If there's a change in the model, that design team is involved with it in construction. They're communicating it. And then right now we're looking at that, where do I take the data after I get done with this? Okay, it gets to construction, I work on it, it's built. What's that downstream deliverable? You know, we all kind of want that open standard that eventually I can give any file to any contractor and they can work on it. Today, it's an industry problem. I mean, today, I can give a DGN to a contractor, well, that contractor may use Autodesk, may use Trimble, Topcon, Carlson, whatever. They may not be able to accept that as a DGN. So hopefully in the future, maybe IFC or something else feeds into that. So with PennDOT, one of the things that you really have to realize with digital delivery is it's standardized. If you don't standardize and give them a process to follow, you're going to fail. Part of this is, where do I have to put my effort? You know, we heard the comment about cost on that. How do I give them a direction? How do I give them the information they need to do this design and move forward? What level of details in that model? I got to set that. So we've done that interim guideline today that actually gives examples. It's not just text, it's visual examples. Here's what I expect out of you in that model. So we're trying to prepare that workforce for this policy that I'll talk about here in a little bit. But again, we're also developing standards on the CAD side. I have to have that standards for the technology to work. If I have 10 different consultants and designers doing different workflows, using different features, using different labeling, that technology isn't going to know what to look for yet. Maybe in the future AI helps with that. But today, I have to set something so that it knows what to look for, how to check it, how to move it forward. So it's kind of setting that template, setting those resources, and developing that next process. Part of that process was, today we have paper. Where is that information now in that model? So we have what's called crosswalks. Again, it's the media that changes. We're not delivering paper, we're delivering a 3D model possible. Or it's a sheet model, if it has a detail that's cut from the model. It's thinking about where that is. Somebody goes into a sheet today, they know where they're looking for the information. But tomorrow, where do they look for it in the model? So we've started to develop those crosswalks that gives them a legend to, okay, you found it here, now you find it here. It's building that transition. It's helping, it's change management. How do I manage the change for my organization as well as my business partners? And I will say, there's lots of lessons learned. We have projects that have been built. We have the 68, which is that model's a legal document. That's the one that's in construction right now. And then we have the ADCMS grant IFC project that's advertised right now that lets in 2 weeks. So we're in different realms right now. We're not just doing everything as pilots necessarily. Some of them are pilots, but they're real life pilots. They're putting it to the test. It's trying it and not being afraid to fail at trying it. And again, it's being willing to adapt, meet the challenge, give the feedback to, say, Joe, or as a consultant or a contractor, give me your feedback. What's wrong with my workspace? What do I need to include for you as a consultant? It's that partnering. One of the big changes, we don't have a plan set. So how do we shift from plans to a model? We took a kind of a different approach. We have what's called a certification memo. This certification memo has a link that's embedded into it that points back to our ProjectWise through an API. Our internal IT wrote a program to go back to that. It gives the contractor the ability to go there, click there, and download anonymously. So it's there. It's going to have an MD5 check on it so that if they download it, they can check to see it's the same file. We can verify it's the same file that's sealed in that document. So that's replacing our title sheets. The data's in our ProjectWise though. It's not sitting out on some other server or anyplace else. We are an on-prem ProjectWise today. So we're controlling that information today. And again, we're not making copies. We're not copying out to a bidding system or something like that. We're leaving it where it is, where that certification memo points to. It's that single source of truth. And again, as you heard, not just talking EGNs. We now have IFC files involved. There might be XMLs that are being provided as well because of that challenging construction to be able to digest the data. So, how do we move this? How did we get to where we are? I'm going to tell you right now, part of it is vendor relationship. If I didn't have Joey and some of the other guys giving me new tools, trying to solve issues and work with us, we wouldn't be where we are today. We need more technology. We need more things to do what the contractors, what the consultants want. That's where our voice, when Joey was talking about the innovation count, that's how we voice our concerns, our needs, how we improve this. Again, like Kyle said earlier, it's that passion to do better. But part of that is I need reproducible workflows. Because if I can't reproduce it, my consultants are not going to want to do it. If I can't make it that I don't have to recreate a project, they're not going to want to do it. But the other thing is, I have to make this data to a point where designers, contractors, consultants, inspectors trust the data. It can't be the comment that, hey, you guys are giving me crap models and I'm not going to use them. That doesn't work. We have to do better. So again, part of this is learning how to improve the process we're doing today. It's doing a better job of that model. It's things like that. And it's surfacing the right information. So we're using technology, but we have to also check the technology. Is it giving the answer I expect? And I use an example of that as super elevation. I went to an IHEAP one year. I went to 11 different DOTs. All 11 got me a different answer for what super elevation meant from the ash to green room. So it has to be able to adapt to our organizations. It's not today, as I think Kevin kind of hinted, there's not that single, standard that everybody's going to meet or follow across the country. So it has to adapt to that. So let's listen to a consultant perspective on one of our projects.
Hi, I'm Rob Nuss. I'm with KCI. I'm the practice leader for the highway group here in Harrisburg. For the Route 68 project, I was a project manager, really responsible for pulling everything together and then checking the model.
Rob, as the project manager, what processes changed or didn't change as part of this digital delivery project?
The big change is in the checking. Again, we don't have plan sheets, so you're checking the model with mostly checklists. But the overall process, the process of dealing with your subs, coordinating with PennDOT, line grading, typical section, that whole process really didn't change a lot. We still had summary sheets, we still had special provisions, we still had to load everything into ECMS. Just that final deliverable was really different with not having sheets, but in general, the process is the same.
I'm Steve Brown with KCI. I'm a senior project engineer. For the SR68 project, I was the model manager and lead designer.
And you did the modeling of design. So what helped you with modeling all of it that you didn't see on the plan sheets?
Yeah, one of the big things that we did notice when we modeled the culvert excavation was we had our relocated utility lines coming through, and we did see that with that excavation line that we were going to hit the new relocated water line. So we had to alter it and move it, and that was one thing that we would probably never see from the previous way that we used to model things.
And that was during design, correct?
That was in design.
You could probably save money if possible.
I would say so. If it was not moved, they would definitely have an issue out there. Yep.
Hi, I'm Megan Fry with PCI Engineering Training at the Pittsburgh office, and I was a designer and responsible for utilities and drainage for the SR68 job.
And Megan, you've been using Open Roads and Infrastructure Cloud at the same time. So how did you utilize both programs to help you do your design better?
Already, you can make the change while you're looking at Infrastructure Cloud. So Infrastructure Cloud, you can do a profile, 2-point cross-section, a cross-section anywhere in the project. So if you were adjusting drainage, you can make sure that the pipe would be deep enough per the standards of the RCs, everything.
So you were able to utilize both products at the same time?
Yes, Infrastructure Cloud is a lot faster than ORD. So if you needed something quick and easy, use Infrastructure Cloud, and then you can make the change in ORD once.
So do you think this made your design faster?
I do think it helps I guess you can make design changes a little faster because you knew immediately what you needed to change instead of going in ORD trying to open up the profile or cross-section.
So let's talk about how this has changed for us. That's the consultant's perspective today. So in the beginning, which 68 was one of our earlier ones, in the beginning, you notice the model on the screen. A lot of gray coloring. The materials weren't coming across. We had drawing views that, when you open them, you can't look at the model at the same time. So you had limitations. We had issues initially with project-wise and fonts even. So a lot of the stuff was hand-drawn. A lot of it was drafted still. It was data that somebody had to redevelop. It wasn't data that updated maybe with the model. But you can see here, it's very limited. Sometimes drawing models didn't come across. Desktop views don't always work. That information isn't coming in one-for-one at times. So there was a lot of issues at the beginning that we had to go through. We had to address hurdles. We had to talk to Joey and the team and say, hey, how can we do this better? How do we go to the next step? So as we're going through that and kind of doing that, it's like right now, I can see the model, but if I opened up the sheet back then as that drawing model, I couldn't look at the model. I couldn't look at the two side by side unless I opened a whole other window. That's not really easy to do a review if you're doing that, right? So it's very limited. Today, though, we're using data vises. We have a pay items in here. So I can click on drainage, and I can say, all right, I want to see what's in this model drainage list. It's going to highlight. We're trying to give the contractors an easy way to get to the information. We can't just say, here's a model, try to learn how to read it. I got to give you some steps. So with the data visualization, I can start to point them to the drainage pay items. We can use drainage profile and look at the information for that system. So now I have all that information that I can turn on and off too. Maybe I want to see a specific piece of information. And this isn't just important to me as a designer, it's important to construction as well, because they need that invert, they need that elevation to build. So it's information we both need. And I can look at it through a profile. I can look at it in that 2D or 3D view. I can look at that information. And it becomes dynamic now too. I click on an inlet, it's going to take me to it in the 3D or 2D view there. That integration now is there, that the stuff is talking from view to view. Think of a contractor, if they had that view up and said, hey, I'm going to work on these 5 inlets today. They can just go down the line, clicking one to the next as they need the information. And there's metadata on that information. There's pay items are there, that information is there. So, beyond that, what else have we kind of changed here? Well, sheets are in the sheet index now. They're not in those drawing models. So we're using sheet models like you do today with ORD. Same process you're doing, putting them into the sheet index there. That sheet index is what's pulling it across into infrastructure cloud. So I'm doing a workflow that's very similar to what I do today and getting another advantage to it. I'm not creating a PDF review. I'm creating a sheet model out here in the software review that I can put issues on. I can track them. I can, mark them up. The model can point to where it is, or I can go in there to that list, and you can see there's a folder structure. That folder structure is what I have set up in my sheet index in ORD. It comes across, looks the same. Now, these typicals, they're not hand-drawn, they're not drafted, they're interactive. They're slices of a model. It's integrated. It's not something somebody drew in 2D that doesn't update. It's information that if that model changes, it changes. So we're starting to kind of really get to that integrated piece where providing a PDF is kind of going backwards. If I can look at the CAD file for where they are, I just saved a step. I don't have an external piece here now. It's part of the model. It's delivered in the model files. And while I'm looking at that sheet, I'm looking at the model, I can open cross sections even. So I have multiple views, multiple ways to look at the information. I'm not stuck with just the model or just the sheet. I have all that now. We talked about, annotations. There's some stuff coming here. Now you see we're starting to get annotations that are based off of groups. So I can dictate, hey, maybe I want these things to have width, depth, elevation, offset, that information there that maybe I want to be able to turn that on or off. Maybe the contractor wants to do one operation that day. I can break the information up. I'm not just giving them a cross-section that has all kinds of annotations on it that are cluttered and close together. Now they can turn things on and off. They can adjust that information we're looking at. The other thing, before I start the video here, you'll see there's a filter. This is version compare. We started versioning files. We started setting them up so that we could version the models in there. By doing this, I kind of have an audit trail of how the model changed. And you can see there in that filter, there's added, removed, and modified. And you'll see what that does here in a second. So everything in red turns off removed. Add is green, and the blue is the modified. Now I can interrogate this as an entire model, or I can interrogate it as an individual file. And the example I'm going to use here is drainage, because drainage gave a great example of this. So in this case, this project went from a 2-lane to a 3-lane. They had already designed it as a two-lane network. They were just going to go through and do that. So they eliminated the pipes that they had in the initial model, moved that one manhole out, and added the new pipes. I can see that change. But I could also go in and inspect the proper zone. So now I can see side by side the information that changed. The node name, the elevation, the offset. The information is there that I have a way to actually find it. If I'm going through this visually, just looking, I may miss something that moves 6 inches, a foot. With this, it gives me a way to track and check and start really interrogating the model. And it works for pretty much anything in the model. Whether it's pipes, end walls, maybe an item changed on the pavement, it's going to reflect that through the version pair. So we're starting to get the tools to really start interrogating models. Something like this is one of those pieces that you had to have. Otherwise, I can't say that I was checking every single piece of this model. It's hard to see every change, to know every change, especially when you're talking now metadata. Cross-section. So I kind of hinted at this. This is one of those areas that we're kind of readjusting with construction. So contractors like the dynamic section, yes. What don't they like? They need to manually place an offset and elevation. So talking about that annotation and auto annotation, which is a work in progress. This is not finalized. It's still being worked on, trying to clean things up. But the thing about it is, they still keep asking for some paper. And one of the justifications we've heard is, I have laborers. I have people that won't have an iPad. I have somebody that's tying a rebar on a bridge abutment in a mud hole. I'm not giving them a $2,500 iPad. So they still want something they can use or a way to kind of get that information. So you can see here, cross-section, just like you see in ORD. They come in, you can see the 3 lines showing what's on it. Oh, hey, there's a print button. You can see it says uncontrolled across it. The uncontrolled is to be a warning to the contractor. I need to verify this is a usable piece of paper still. I need to go back to that with that QR code and check to see, did the model change? And I can tell you, we've delivered one project with a model that a 2D deliverable was printed, given to a third party. A construction change happened. They didn't give the updated sheet. The result, there was a bridge built 3 feet off. So, controlling that print, controlling that information, making sure that they're using the latest information is very important. So if you do go to a print, make sure you have a way to control or point them back to the data you're using. That's a key part of that. We've learned that lesson. But you can see all the information, whether it's through annotations, whether it's through sheets, the data's matching. It's there. And who knows where this could go in the future. I mean, that's the things that there's still thoughts. How do we improve this more? But again, there's lessons learned. There's things that, hey, I can deliver it, but maybe that contractor takes that DGN and prints it on their own. That's where we want to start controlling where they print from, where they get the data from. That single source of truth. And control what comes out of that single source of truth. So let's listen to the contractor.
Tom Stefanski with Minneke Contracting, Northeast Pennsylvania bridge contractor. We employ about 50 to 60 personnel throughout the course of the construction season. My role on the project is on the front end, the estimated the project, and then during the course of construction, some project management duties and technical engineering.
What would you do differently on the next digital delivery project?
From the bidding aspect, I know my way around the system a little more, so I do a lot of things differently. Just simply more educated now after experiencing from start to finish the process. From a construction standpoint, I don't really think that there's too much we would change. I thought the personnel on the project did a great job, and the entire team did a great job.
Since the completion of the digital delivery project, have you incorporated any lessons learned into other projects we're currently working on?
Simply communication. The next time we do a digital delivery project, we can take what we learned here with us.
Do you have any final points you'd like to make about the project or digital delivery process?
However, wherever the digital delivery process goes, don't forget the small subs and suppliers that don't have the resources to navigate the system without specialized equipment and training. Don't forget that there are extraordinarily knowledgeable people in the construction system that may not be as technically savvy as digital delivery would require. And also the wish list of we need to be able to print as needed. We need to have a synchro system that is able to annotate, detail, mark up the model, and then print or save what we need to. And also, internet is not everywhere, and we need to be able to take the model and travel with it, especially in synchro control.
So, you've heard some of the changes. You've heard some of the challenges. So what are the takeaways from some of that? One, terminology, definitions. We talked about that even in the last section. You know, what's the definition of digital delivery? Trying to get terminology that we're all speaking the same language, using the same terms for different pieces and parts of this process. That's important, because it might get a different result if you ask a different question. And again, with a model, you get a little bit more complete assessment. You're digging deeper. You're starting to get more into the metadata. And you're starting to do that analysis on the product using like corridor analysis and things like that. So now you're getting tools that allow you to interrogate more and more of the model. The other thing is, when you're building this virtually. So you've got to think, how are they going to construct this? If you're not using the 4D, how do they break that up? If you're just doing it as synchro control and not 4D, how does that contractor break it up? How do they do stuff like that? So that's something, if you're designing it, if you're not planning to provide them that as, like me as a DOT, how do I make it so that they can digest the information and get it the way they want to see it? So you have to think about that when you're modeling these projects. Partnering. You've heard consultants. You've heard from one of our contractors. Heard me talk. You've heard me talk about talking with Joey and his guys and getting feedback from consultants. Partnering is part of this process, part of making this the future. It's not just me I'm doing this for. It's me, my business partners, my organization. They're all part of that process. And letting them communicate that to you is important. Take their feedback, digest their feedback. Answer, fix what you can. If you can't fix something, give them a reason why. Or maybe an expectation of when you might be able to fix it. And it's the need to print real. Some cases, yes. We have one contractor that he has equipment that's old. Doesn't see utilities necessarily in the AMG. He actually takes and prints the section, tapes it underneath the display. So it's not just necessarily that labor. It might be another reason why they need some of that information. Maybe their technology is not there yet. And a lot of contractors are not going to jump to this right off the bat. So they want to go through one of these pilots. They want to see what it does. They want to give their feedback. They want to see what the challenges are and gauge whether they put that investment into it. So part of that is, there is change management. There is things that I may have to do to manage that change until that tool is available, or that way to deliver it to maybe a label electronic. That's things we have to manage. Always have the most current information, like the bridge. Control that. Somehow have a way that you can verify that they're using correct data, or they can verify they're using correct data. So that becomes part of this. And there is no easy one. Doesn't exist. It is a process of learning and adapting. That is digital delivery. There is going to be challenges until we get more people doing it. We get more feedback. We get better tools. That's part of it. So what's to come? PennDOT, August 7th, had the implementation policy signed. What's this mean, PennDOT? Each district in 2027 will have 2 projects that will be delivered as digital projects. We have 11 districts, so that's 22 projects. 28, 3 projects. 29, 4. 35. So in 30, that's 55 projects. The other thing, beginning in 29, integral abutment bridges less than 90 feet in length will be digital delivery. 2030, new construction, reconstruction projects of a roadway will be digital delivery. And this is all being housed in our ProjectWise on-prem. What does that do for us, putting it on our ProjectWise? I manage the workspace. I manage the change. We are, the best way to keep this going is to standardize and make sure you're managing that change, controlling that change. I don't want necessarily consultants changing the workspace or deviating from maybe things that are in our standards. I want them to come to me and say, hey, I need this change to do my work. I need this. Give me the feedback. Let me adapt it. Let me meet your need. Then we have one source for that workspace. I don't have something that maybe you've adapted, I've updated, and now your data's overwritten because you've done it someplace that maybe I've already made changes. So we want to control that interaction. We want to work together. The other thing I talked a little bit earlier about, higher education. We are talking to 17 different universities across PA. We're doing presentations at them. We are talking to the students. We are showing them what we're doing, what the products can do. Giving them a sandbox to go into. So classes are actually getting into our data sets and looking at the information we're producing. We're giving them that chance to experience this and learn it. As part of this also, those universities are working with us to develop future curriculum. How can they prepare for that next wave of engineers? How can we prepare them to do what we're doing today? Because we know training is part of the process. We want somebody who comes in possibly available and ready to run with the project. Not that I have to spend 6 months, a year training them to do some of this stuff. So if we can prepare that next wave, we want to do that. So again, we want to start to get the next generation even thinking about this. This isn't just for me, this is for future. And again, it's a partnership. It's not just, again, design, construction, it's even future. It's beyond what we're working at today. So Joe.
All right, thanks, Scott. I've only got a short amount of time and so much to say. So I will do my best to keep it brief. Number one, I hope you saw what the reality of today is. The ability to deliver digital data, a three-dimensional model on real projects being bid, led, and built is going on now, today. So we're not dreaming about 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. We are pushing the envelope today. With that, as I've mentioned before, we are actively working with the industry, with all of you, to develop the technology that's needed to continue to push that boundary. to continue to make models come to life for contractors, inspectors, reviewers, designers, anyone who needs to interact with the project. It is our goal to make that digital content as easy as a plan sheet. Okay, and that's a tall order, we understand that. But the opportunity to elevate everything we do as designers, the content that we create, that deliverable that we produce, this is the opportunity to take that deliverable to the next level. Not a static sheet, not a static PDF, but a dynamic project of digital content that's interactive, that's dynamic, that allows the contractor, the surveyor, the reviewer, whomever it is, to interact with that data to find a station, an offset, an elevation, a pavement depth. They could summarize quantities based off pay items in the digital project. This is the dream, and this is the perspective I'm trying to share with. I know it's not best practice to put a lot of words on the slide, but please forgive me. Imagine again, we deliver not a static drawing, but we deliver digital content that is the beginning. A drawing is kind of an end product. It is what it is when we hand it to the contractor. And the contractor has no path to get any more information unless it's an RFI. This opens the door to a world of data and transformative interactivity that we can only really imagine the potential that it's going to unleash. So my question as designer is, you think about this, we all work toward the perfect deliverable. Imagine delivering this in the future. Scott showed the dynamic interaction, turning on cross-section labels, opening a profile on demand, navigating in the profile. You can turn on the drainage in the profile. All these things are possible and doable today in Infrastructure Cloud. And we're going to continue to enhance and embellish and build functionality again to make the consumption of the model snap your fingers easy. So with that, that means we're going to continue to push forward. And that means working with all of you to build that functionality that makes the dream come to life. And that's what I'm trying to convey here again is imagine a world where we produce this content that's the beginning point for everyone downstream. It's on demand, it's interactive. So a few functionalities that are forthcoming, and I will have to, these are forward-looking, so things may change a bit. But again, imagine this world we're dreaming about. The idea of having a section view, a profile view, a model view, all simultaneously working together and interacting. When it comes time to review that, I can put an issue in any view, and that's intelligent. It knows this issue, knows it's in section, this issue knows it's on an inlet in the model, and I can recall those, and those views all come back based off of that issue. Integrated digital sheets, Scott demonstrated that earlier. The idea of not having a PDF in my left hand and a model in my right hand, no. They both represent a project. They should work and live together. They are different representations of the single project. And that's what we're working towards with integrated digital sheets. Drainage and utilities mode, the ability to be able to snap your fingers to see the proper content. I want to see drainage, I want the drainage emphasized, I want to see inverts, rim elevations, type sizes, slopes, pyramids, just like I'd see on a plan sheet, but it's in the model. Continuation of that type of functionality, multi-view, saved views, the ability to prepare content for downstream consumers. We know that the downstream consumer is the key to really taking digital delivery to the mainstream. Those downstream consumers, again, inspectors, contractors, surveyors, those running the equipment in the field, they have to see the value. They have to say, this is better than what we've done in the past. So saved views allow you to pre-prepare views of sections, profiles, whatever it happens to be, save them, name them, put them off. Save them to the side and allow that downstream consumer to recall those views on demand. Dynamic annotations and sections, Scott showed that in his demonstration as well. the ability, just as the contractor asked for, the cross-section picture is great. What do I need? I need a little more detail. And so that minimum expectation, slopes, widths, pavement depths, on demand, anywhere I go, we can label it. Summary reports based off pay items. The ability to take that rich digital content, extract the right information, summarize it, in this case, based on pay items. The ability to do that from a shape, a sheet boundary, or just along an alignment. Again, this is a data-rich digital project. How do we leverage that data and make it available, snap your fingers, simple and easy to downstream consumers? Okay? Now with that, I hope you get the mental picture of where we are in terms of making the model consumable and making that model come to life in a way a plan sheet never, ever, ever could. Now, I'll share a bit of highlight reel functionality with you next. So again, dream big. I've said this before and I'll continue to say it. There are no limits. Don't be limited in what we've done in the past or what we have today. We are building the future. And that's the best, most exciting thing I can say to be a part of the industry at this time. Okay? All right, with that. Again, pushing that envelope, dreaming about what's possible, and taking that forward. All right, so I hope, if nothing else, that compels you to think bigger and to understand that we are sitting here staring at what the future looks like from this vantage point. And I'll say this just to wrap up. I've been around this industry, in this industry for 25 years, and I will say, for the first time in 25 years, in my opinion, we are standing at a place in time, looking and imagining what the future can be. For it's sincerely, absolutely transformative in time and space. If we can work together to imagine that, to understand the realities of what we need, and what's been done in the past, and the reason we needed those things. And then we can ask ourselves, how can I accomplish that task, meet that objective, produce that deliverable and that content, but I want to do it in 100 times, 1,000 times better way, because this is that opportunity to reimagine what we've done for the better of all of us, to accelerate project delivery for design and construction, to take this digital content again to the next level, so that one day we'll look back when we're a little older, a little bit more senior, a little wiser, and we can say we started that. And the young folks following behind us can say, my gosh, you know what they used to have to do? Wow, that's amazing. My gosh, we might as well have had a pick and a shovel out there doing it yourself. That's crazy. So I like, again, the point of this is to show you what's happening today and to share with you the potential and the technology we're actively developing to take us to the future.